Hey guys, before the pod starts, I want to let you guys know the camera was facing diagonal for the first 2 minutes. After that, we fixed it. So enjoy the episode. Welcome back to the Sikhana podcast. I'm Akam. I'm here with Jake Duncan, and we're going to talk business. Background on Jake. Worked at QTC from 2003 to 2022.
I mean, around then, 2001 till current. Yeah.
And then you were director of operations. And from 2020 to now, you've been the VP at QTC. And QTC stands for those of you who don't know, is Quality Telecom Consultants. So what do you guys do? How does that work?
You know, we do a little bit of everything. I mean, most people, when they ask, like, oh, what do you do? I just tell them construction.
Yeah.
Thinking they probably don't care that much. But we primarily do telecommunications, cell phone tower work. But we do a little bit of everything. We do some renewable energy, some EV charging stations, some solar. So, yeah. Besides that, we have a full steel division up in Northern California. So we fabricate our own steel and do in-field welding also. It's a little bit of everything.
So first question is, what is your story? How did you get to, owning or being a part of QTC? And was it something you were interested in growing up? Was that just something that came about? How was that?
Yeah, I think I always kind of envisioned being in construction. My dad was in construction, so had little construction figurines when I was super young. I just thought that was the coolest thing. So I definitely grew up. Got to high school thinking that I'd switch. I should be an engineer. So I went to college for a couple years at Sierra, but got an out-of-town job. Decided I'd give up on college. That not necessarily recommending that for everybody, but took a job out of town. Just started going for it, working in the field first.
So tell me how true this is. For those of you who don't know, I got referred by Mrs. Orwash, who's my teacher. She talked about how it was you and your brother, and your dad gave you the opportunity to either pursue or a job out of high school or to go to college. Is that how true is that?
Yeah.
Okay, so you had the option and you chose to...
Yeah, I chose to just jump into the field, start, doing the actual work. I never actually thought I was going to go to the office at first. My brother decided to go to college. He went to San Diego State. So I stayed around and got into the work.
What challenges have you faced being an entrepreneur, being part of a business? What are just some common challenges you face in terms of that aspect of it, not the really construction aspect? And what would you give advice to someone facing those types of challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's lots. It's always surprising to me, I guess being in business for, over 20 years, which is kind of crazy to say. I still feel like I'm younger than I am, but there's so many challenges. I feel like, you get a little bit older and you realize all the obstacles that are out there. I think it's interesting to think when I was younger and first started, I literally didn't think about any of that stuff. All there was winning, and I was going to figure it out no matter what, not really thinking about revenue and cash flow and marketing and employees and issues and lawsuits and all the things that come with owning a business.
Yeah. What advice would you give to people who are going through those basic type of things and don't really know what to do? Did you learn from other people, connections? How'd you learn to get through those things?
I think a combination of things. I think for me, grit. To me, there's that part that you can talk to whoever you want. You can read the books, which I'd recommend. Listen to awesome podcasts. And do all those things that I think really give you an edge or an advantage. But first of all, I think it really comes down to just having the grit to push through those things.
Yeah.
You can read all the business books in the world, but until you get in it and start dealing with it, you really learn it for yourself. And but I would recommend all those things. I think it's so important. I think nowadays it's almost you have to utilize all those kind of resources to be successful.
You touched on grit as a skill. What other skills do you think are useful in terms of people wanting to start out and wanting to have their own thing? What do you besides grit? What else is there? Skill wise.
I mean, hard work.
Yeah.
I'm like huge believer in hard work.
Uh-huh.
I think things aren't supposed to come easy. I think personally and professionally, I think having a growth mindset's probably the most important thing that you can have in life. Just I feel like whatever struggles come up, just realizing that you know, you're always going to learn, you're going to get through it, you're going to stay positive. I feel like definitely most important.
Is there a lesson that you learned early on that you're like, this is something that I'm going to live by, this is something that's going to help shape the way I guess run things or do things, even everyday life, business aside?
Yeah. I think a little bit different than my like growth journey now. I think when I first started out, I kind of felt like I knew everything in a way.
Yeah.
I was a pretty confident young guy.
Yeah.
You know, and I did think because I'd work hard, I'd get through anything. So I remember early on, I definitely had some like confrontations with people.
Uh-huh.
Like I actually got into a fight with a
wow.
competitor at a customer's warehouse. And I remember that moment, not at the moment because I really wanted to like have a fight with that guy. But from there, I feel like I realized just how important people and relationships are. And like, even though they're maybe your competitors, it's really important to have good relationships with people. And win-wins much better than trying to fight people.
Yeah. What's some advice you'd give to anyone who's starting out? Just general advice.
General advice? I'd say my most general advice comes from when we started a gun store.
Mm-hmm.
So we've always been in construction,
Yeah.
decided to start a gun business almost 7 years ago now, NorCal Gun Vault. But my advice from that would be you should really do your homework. Like, you know, when people say like, do your due diligence or do your market research, those kind of things.
Yep.
I think if we would have done like a simple business plan, maybe, but my point to really with this was going out and seeing like the financials.
Yeah.
So like we basically moved forward with an idea of starting a gun company or a gun shop. And within, 6 months of opening up, I realized you only make like $20 on a Glock.
Yeah.
So when you start doing the numbers and it's penciling out and you're thinking like what this business is going to make, I think if I would have talked to one other gun store company, he'd probably been like, this whole business only makes like $100,000 a year, which would have probably, we would have never started the business.
Yeah.
If we would have known.
What happened with that? You just shut it down or?
We're able to sell it.
Okay.
And hopefully the new owners, were more successful or figured something else out. But for us, the liability and just the lack of margin, lack of what you can pay people to in the industry, when there's a business that's so little profit, you really get restricted by what you can pay employees. And that was always kind of a bummer to me.
Yeah. So your role is in QTC. Are you the owner or so your VP? What is that? What is your specifically?
Yeah, my dad and I are the owners. My dad's still majority owner.
Yeah.
A lot of respect for my pops.
Yeah.
But as of now, I do, the day-to-day stuff. Like for sure would consult with him and have all the respect for, everything that he started and truly being, the majority entrepreneur that started QTC. So yeah, day to day, I wouldn't say I even talk to my dad every day. I love talking to him, see him in the office, depending, it's busy. We might not always connect, but yeah, I'm in charge of the business. So I would report to him like he's basically an owner that's, invests in the business. But yeah, I'm responsible.
So then you touched on it day to day. What does your normal day look like? Ideal day of Jake, what does that look like?
Yeah. Ideal day, it always has some work in it.
Yeah.
I love work.
Yeah.
Like, for sure. Workaholic-ish. But ideal day, I'd say I usually get up. It'll change. I'll get up whatever, 2, 3 if I need to, or, like Monday mornings, we start, like everybody's at the office at 5:30. So Mondays are early, but typical day, I'd say up at 4 a.m., hit the gym, get into the office maybe around 7, all day at the office. I usually just like bring food, DoorDash. I don't like going places if I don't need to. I really just like to, tons of meetings. I schedule like meetings back to back to back, or maybe a little in between. But I like the grind. Like, I really like that. So I'll probably get out of the office between 5 and 7, depending on when kids are getting out of sports or whatever. I'll do the pickup. Sometimes I'll work out later, and then, obviously come home.
Yeah, you talked about the grind and that drive sort of aspect. I can tell. It's all you. That's your thing, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything bad that comes with it? Is there anything you would advise against?
When it comes to the grind?
In terms of the grind. Is there anything that has happened to you that you've been like, okay, because of that, because of working every day, you've made sacrifices? Is that family? Is there some that you've lost from that in a sense?
No. And I feel like a lot of people probably, and I hear it sometimes at our work, like where they frame it like you're just giving up so much to grind and work hard. Like, I literally don't think of it like that. I look at like, I'm a provider for my family. Yeah. I have a responsibility to, QTC and my team to bring a lot of value personally. And I don't see it that way. I think too many people kind of look at it like it's like an either or. Like, you can either be the hard work, grinding work guy and you neglect the family, the friends, and all that stuff. I look at like just a life challenge to do both as well as I possibly can.
Yeah. So for those people who, was there a time in your life where you had like, were you always built like to have drive and to have that drive, or where did that come from? Has that just been a natural thing that, because, I've heard this thing in my business class, and we've had people come in and talk, and they've talked about like, to be an entrepreneur, there has to be certain types of values. You just have them or you don't.
Yeah.
For you specifically, do you think that drive comes from, like, is that natural? Is that something that you built over time? Did you always have that?
It's actually really weird to talk about yourself like this, but I'd like to think that it's always kind of been in me. Like, I feel like I don't know. I probably take so much pride in hard work that is in me. But I would have to give a lot of credit to my dad. I'd say my dad's like crazy, crazy hard worker. Yeah. And definitely like for whatever points when I was growing up, I wasn't working hard. I think I got quickly reminded.
Did you ever deal with procrastination then, or no? You just always?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll procrastinate. Probably, there's always things like you don't necessarily want to do as much as other. Like, I would rather probably sit down and like look at a spreadsheet and grind through that than like think of what the next QTC swag's gonna look like. Like, just not my favorite thing to do. So yeah, I'll procrastinate. I'll do stuff like that. I'll get it done.
So Ms. Zerwas talked about sustainability and of that industry. Mm-hmm. And she talked about how and I don't know if I'm word for word, how in a few years, 5 to 10 years, we'll say, things aren't going to be as I guess booming, if you would say, right?
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, like the cell tower industry?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about 5 to 10 years. Like, definitely who knows, just with like the technology that's out there. So you got to kind of keep that in mind. Like, things change. You got the Google balloons and Elon's rockets and all that kind of stuff, which is super cool. I'd say for the foreseeable future, like, I would think like in my career, it'll definitely change. My guess, and even talking to like some people much smarter than me, would be that for the next 10 or so years, it'll be like a collaboration of different things. You still have cell sites. You're gonna have satellites for like super remote areas, and then as you get to like the more concentrated areas, cities, stuff like that, that's where you have like these small cells. You still have fiber. Basically, as the more saturated or more people in an area, the technology of the satellites like can't quite cover the speed.
That makes sense.
That they need.
So have you started brainstorming, or do you have any ideas of what you would do in case of something like that happening, where it's less, I guess you're less relied on in a sense?
For sure. I mean, I'd say that's why we already kind of transitioned to like some of the renewable energy and EV charging, steel, electric. I really like electrical. I feel like electrical, HVAC, plumbing are kind of some of those specialty trades that, you know, they're not really going anywhere. I think everybody needs power, heating and air, and that sort of thing.
So you tried the gun industry.
Yeah.
You were already in like the construction while you're doing that, right?
Yeah.
Do you plan on looking at any other industries or trying, you know, to start other things in other places?
I mean, it sounds really fun still to do something like that. No, we basically tried a standalone fab shop. We purchased off-road, four-wheel drive, auto repair shop, and the gun shop. So out of those, I would say none of them like super successful, and just realized like that's not like where my passion is. I'll do whatever I needed to survive, but I just love construction. The only thing that I've truly really considered is like being, you know, I'd love to be like a developer one day. Maybe residential I could see. But I think what you kind of talked about with like commercial real estate, that's like definitely a big
industry,
big attraction for me. My good buddy that lives in San Diego, we've talked about teaming up and doing some business together.
Is there any point, right? You work really hard. What, are you up at 4 a.m. every day? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part.
Okay. Is there any point where you're like, when, you know, what is the point where you're going to feel satisfied? You're going to feel like, okay, I can take a step back. I can relax, take the foot off the pedal. When will that happen? What's your ideal, I guess, financial situation, family situation for that to happen, for you to take that step off and kind of relax?
I think it, you know, if I was truly honest with myself, I think I've relaxed from where I was like before having a family, for sure. Cause I'd out of town 7 days a week. Like I had nothing, maybe a girlfriend that I neglected or something, but like didn't care about. So I feel like from then, I probably relaxed a little. So I don't want to be like, oh, I've never, but I would say like to be satisfied, like I'll never be satisfied.
Do you have like, so how many hours of sleep do you get a night?
I try to always get at least 5.
Okay. Yeah. So recommend is 8, but you're going for 5.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. I just say like, and I definitely sleep more now than I used to. Have you listened to like that podcast from like, who was that, on Rogan? One of those guys.
Which
talks
one?
about like the neuroscience.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like you listen to that one time and you're like, dude, you gotta sleep.
Yeah. That line between health and drive. Yeah. Where would you draw that line?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. Health and drive. I think health's so important.
Yeah.
Like, dude, and for me it works, right? Like, because I love it, because I do kind of what I want to do, it doesn't ever feel like I'm, you know, unhealthy. So, dude, if I will not go without working out. I probably missed a day at the gym like maybe 5 times in 2024. Like I just refuse to not let it happen. Damn. So yeah, dude, prioritize it, take care of myself, like eat healthy, all that stuff. I think, you know, what are you doing it for if you can't like have healthy body? And
you run this whole family, I guess, would you call it a family business? I mean, it's just.
Yeah, I think it's family, small.
Yeah. You touched on it earlier, your dad and you don't really see him every day and things like that. How has it affected your personal relationships? I know people talk about when they make money, you know, it's harder for them to give out money to family or family comes and asks them and like how is there been any of that for you? Any flashing of family versus business in that line?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I feel like, you know, we've had family struggles. My brother and my sister both used to work for us. I joke that like I'm the common denominator of an issue. Yeah. Like they both seem to not like working with me, but I and we're still good now. But I think to answer your question, I don't see that owning a business or what in my experience has affected personal relationships like that. I don't think I've ever had people, you're kind of alluding to like ask for money or.
Not even that, just like that line of, you know what, we'll go with that.
Okay.
Asking for money, yeah.
Yeah. I've never had that.
No.
And I mean, to me, I feel like, I feel fortunate for the money that we've been able to make. And like, honestly, I don't mind giving it, sharing it. It doesn't really matter to me. I love.
So if, let's say you Thanksgiving dinner, you're with your dad, you guys don't talk about business at all, right? Is that a different?
All we talk about.
Oh, so we talk about.
That's all we talk about. Yeah, it doesn't matter where we're at.
Okay, because I think it was Brandon was talking about how it'll be like a little separate like type of.
Yeah, he's probably better at that. Yeah. And at least with my dad, like my dad and I are just all business.
Yeah.
Like if I go home though or whatever, I'm not like bringing that home. I'm not talking about my day and well so and so today. I learned early on it just unless it's like positive and moving forward, like I'm not gonna go home and just like recap my day for the family.
How important? So you have kids, right? And a wife. And so when did that come along in your timeline? Were you already working when that happened, or how was that?
Yeah, I was 26, 28, around there. So like later 20s, and then I mean, fortunately it was timed with like me being in town more because I was in the office. If not, part of the problem was like just being out of town. I was always out of town.
That didn't impact like your work. Like, did you work more hours because of that? Was that just that? Did having a family impact anything work wise, or did you just keep?
Yeah.
How was that?
I had to work less.
Work less?
Work less, yeah.
I
mean, I had to like, because I mean, before I had family, I'd just work. I'd never stop working. Like, fall asleep with my boots on.
Yeah. How does that, this is completely unrelated, but in terms of family, growing a family, and raising a family, when you first had your kids, did you take time off? Did you work? And like, how did that, I guess, ages of 1 to 3, how did that work in terms of, right? You work really hard and you have kids and I guess you want to be a part of their life. How did that work from their ages 1 to 3, that time period?
Dude, for me, I think every single kid we had on maybe a Friday. I think.
Oh,
it was like a Thursday or Friday. So I never basically took a day off.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't that I feel like was weird. I think just between my wife and I, it just worked out. She's like the least needy person ever. So it's kind of like, you're good, I'm going back to work.
Yeah.
And, but as far as like the first year to 3 years, I remember like at one point, it was like once we had our first kid, it was like, do you think you can start coming home at 7? It was like that was our convo. It was like, now that we had a kid, can you start coming home like a half hour early? But dude, honestly, all the credit goes to my wife. She handles everything. I keep talking about me working hard. Like she handles it all.
Yeah. Do you have any regret taking it back to business?
Yeah.
20 years. Do you have any regrets? Anything that you change going back?
I'd say like yes and no. No. No in the way of like, dude, it's been an awesome journey. I've learned so much. I'm so thankful for the way things have gone. Like, yeah. Yes, in the way of like, yeah, could I have, knowing what I know now, would I avoid a couple lawsuits or, pull the trigger on something or not pull the trigger? Like, I mean, there's so many things like as you're growing and you're relying on other people to make decisions. I mean, we've bought $50,000, $100,000 pieces of equipment that like didn't work for what we needed.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh gosh, it's so embarrassing. Like literally buy a forklift that matches the weight we needed, but doesn't lift all the way to the top of the rack. Yeah. So it's just, there's stuff like that, like obviously. But yeah, I'd say nothing super insightful.
What's the most, is there like been a habitat or a mindset you've adopted that you live by, like a strict, like this is like work, and then, time with people, friends and family after? Is that like, is there a mindset you've developed working 20 years and having all that experience?
I think there's lots of mindsets. I wouldn't say I have like a catchphrase or something. I mean, I tattooed like no substitute for hard work on my leg, so I'd say that's a pretty big commitment to something. Yeah.
What motivates you to keep pushing forward, keep going? Is that family? Is that your internal self? What is that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think at a surface level, it's all the things you'd expect, like family for sure, friends. I feel like a crazy commitment to the people I work with. Like, I don't really look at it like, oh, you work for me and you owe me and all that. Like, I'm literally the opposite in my mind. I'm like thinking like I owe it to you for like what I'm responsible for the company.
Yeah.
To like lead, manage, direct, be lead by example, all that stuff. So that's definitely motivating to me. I'd say there's like a deeper, darker side of motivation to me that comes from like severe competitiveness. People that have doubted me in the past. Like, have you ever heard of the book Relentless?
Yeah.
So like like that where they explain like the dark side. I should probably get the definition so it doesn't sound like horrible, but it's basically like that side in you, like that part that, somebody's saying you can't do something, like that drives me crazy. Like I would want to do anything to prove to them that I'm better.
Have you ever had a problem with like delegation or like, for me, what I've done the past years, I've like overbooked, I guess, signed up for things.
Okay.
I have so many things going on. It's just hard to find time for all of that, make time for family. Yeah. Have you ever had any problem like that?
Oh yeah. But I like that, dude. That's good.
Yeah.
I feel like that you do that. I feel like my advice would be when you're young and honestly forever, like 10x, dude. Yeah. Everything you can, as much as you can, overbook it, figure it out, stretch it, take the call on the road. Like, I love that mentality, and I feel like that's what like keeps fire going. Mm-hmm. And I think with that, just there's the like tactical side, which is I'm a fanatic about my calendar. Like everything goes in the calendar down to like reminders and when to call people and reoccurring stuff. My non-negotiables, like I'm a nut when it comes to that.
Oh wow. Have you always been like that? I guess what I'm trying to ask is like in high school. Oh, yeah. What type of person were you?
In high school?
Did you procrastinate? Did you like? I asked Brandon the same question.
Yeah. No, I definitely like school wise. I procrastinated. I always turned it in though. Like, dude, I'm never rolling in without something done. I procrastinate, but I do whatever it took to study for a test, whatever. I got like pretty good grades. I'm just not like a genius, so I got like a 3.8 something. I mean, in high school though, I was probably mostly worried about like sports and girls.
Yeah. So, yeah. Would you what type of people would you recommend go to college? Right, I know a lot of people. We have someone who's successful, making a lot of money, have their own business, and as a senior. What type of, right? If someone was like, okay, I either want to go, because we have some kid who wants to do Section 8 real estate, which is, are you familiar with that?
No, is that like
it's like you're basically selling to tenants who are less fortunate. The government's paying you.
Okay.
And so these tenants or these people who are renting your properties are sometimes might go crazy. That's up to you. You chose to go in that position. But, I have a kid named Lucas who goes a senior who's not even going to go to college, not even Sierra. He's going straight into it. His parents are in real estate, so that's his thing. Would you recommend people go to college?
I don't know if I have the best opinion on this. One, because I never finished college myself, so I can't really, all the experiences that would bring. But what I'll tell my kids, it'd be like, I think you should go to college. Yeah. If I'm going to say why not, for the social part, the learning the first time on your own, the experiences that would bring. So fun, and hopefully get you that education you can, fall back on, even if you're not going to be a doctor or something specific. I see some careers needing that, but to your point, if there's always that exception, right? If there's some kid that's got fire to hit the trades or start his own business, I love that too. I mean, you can make a ton of money jumping straight into the trades, which is pretty cool.
What do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's great.
Trade school?
I don't even know what trade school is. I feel like I don't even know why you jump into school. I think if you pick the right construction company, you're going out of high school making, I don't even know, $25 to $40 an hour, depending if you've been like, if you're an operator, you know, or something like that, and you'd been growing up with your dad and practicing and stuff like that. I mean, you can make pretty good money really quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, you're making over $100,000, you know, in the first couple of years.
Yeah.
You get to foreman and some of that.
Yeah. Last question. What if there was one, or maybe I guess five, let's cap it at five, pieces of advice or things that you could give, pieces of knowledge that you could give to people who want to go into the business, to any industry within business, right? Have their own thing and lead with people. I know Brandon talked about having the right team and trusting the right people. Is there a few things that you could give people who are looking to get into business, just pieces of advice?
Sure. I'd say first, I know I kind of mentioned it, but I'd say know the business.
Yeah.
Like be familiar, do your research. I heard Brandon talking about, bakery or whatever, you're a baker, just really thinking that the second one would be thinking through what you truly want, which kind of goes with what Brandon said. I think too many people, you start going down some road and fumbling down it, like, the saying of like with the end in mind and almost like reverse engineering it. I would highly recommend that. I think too many people either don't know what they want or just don't take the time to get clear on that.
Yeah.
Third, I would say making a plan. I think there's so many kinds, I've tried to make business plans, but I think any planning is essential. Running that by somebody. So if you're going to start a business or even whatever you have in mind for your career path, I think making a plan for that, a timeline. I highly recommend EOS, if you've ever heard of that.
I haven't.
It's a entrepreneur's operating system.
Uh-huh.
So you can go online, Google it. There's the business version, which is really what it's about. And then we use EOS like for personal and for family.
Okay.
So it's basically about annual or 3 to 5 year out goal setting, planning. Gets down to like your yearly goal, your quarterly rocks. It gives you like a whole system of basically like setting up your plan of executing what you want.
Real quick, goals, you talked about them. How important are goals for you?
I mean, I love goals.
Do you set your goals high and try to get up there? Do you do minimal goals to get to a certain point? How does that work?
I mean, I've tried a combination of everything. I think the EOS structure has probably been the best, but like if you were talking to people at work, like they often joke with me about how I really like rocks or goals and that kind of stuff. Not saying, I execute every single one, but I think that framework and I think just having goals is so essential. Like why wouldn't, if you can't set a goal and at least go after it, like what are you chasing?
Yeah, what types specifically of goals? Like, is that, again, are you going really, really far up, or is that like, are these little goals to get somewhere?
Yeah, I think it's like a big 3-year goal, like one of the books, like BHAG or whatever, big audacious goal. Like, I think that's fun when you're thinking 3 to 5 years or 10 years. Like, where am I going to be in 10 years from now? I want to have $500 million in my bank. Like just some big goals where you're like, all right, so we're thinking big. And then I feel like from there, getting a little bit more realistic, right? As you get to like a 1 year, you're like, well, if I'm going to get to 500 million in 10 years, what would I have to have in year 1?
Yeah.
So you're like reverse engineering it, but then all taking it down to like quarterly specific rocks that are going to move you forward. So if I was at QTC and I'm, maybe that's a revenue goal that I'm relaying to my team, you can see where it just gets really tactical as that like kind of.
Yeah. You talked about like working backwards, setting the big goal. I saw the statistic online. I don't know if you do anything that's similar to this, or it was a statistic, I don't know specifically, but it was like around 40%. If you wake up in the morning and send someone like a voice memo saying, today, like talking in the past tense, today I did this, this, and this, and you like send that to them, the odds of you actually getting that done and you like working and beating the procrastination are really high. Do you do anything like that, or you just get up and you work?
Oh, dude, I love that. But no, I don't have anything like that. I've tried the gratitude journal where it's like 3 things you're thankful for, 3 things you're gonna accomplish, 3 things, like I love trying those things. I'm not currently on one of those programs, but I love that.
Do you journal at all?
I haven't been journaling, no.
But you tried it.
Oh yeah, I love any of that stuff. I mean, I'll do it consistently for a while, and then I like trying new things. But
yeah, I talked to this about at the end of Brandon's thing. Health wise, are you doing anything crazy? Is it like, do you sauna, ice bath? Like what are for your health, to maintain your health? Are you doing anything unique, or is it just work out, eat good? That
yeah, I think it's pretty basic.
That's it.
I mean,
basic
vitamins, supplements. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I haven't ever tried the sauna or ice bath. I should though. I'm sure it works good.
That's all I got.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Yep.